10 kgs of pure lean muscle mass. If I can do it, so can you. So stick around right till the end because in this video, that is exactly what I'm going to be explaining. So let's get started. First of all, you'll need to realize that bulking is not dead. Anyone who tells you that you don't really need to bulk and cut the traditional way, you can main gain your way and you can just burn fat and gain muscle at the same time, does not know what they're talking about at all. If you want to gain a significant amount of muscle, you need to spend a certain amount of time in a calorie surplus to allow your body to build. You cannot main gain your way to 10 kgs of pure muscle mass. That's just illogical. Earlier, I didn't used to track my calories while bulking either. I was just considering that I was eating at maintenance and whatever happens, happens. Like, I was just hoping that I grow muscle mass and suddenly one day I'll have my dream physique. That's not how it works. I only ate till I wasn't hungry, and that really doesn't make sense because if you want to be in a caloric surplus, you need to eat more than you're burning. You need to slightly force feed yourself. And once you actually start tracking how much calories you're having, that is when you realize how little food you're really having and how much more you need to eat. You're going to have to force feed yourself, bro. I'm telling you, there is no other way around. And you also need to realize that just because you're force feeding yourself, you don't need to be scared that you're getting fat. If you're going to the gym 6 times a week and really training hard, giving it all you have in the gym, then you're seriously underestimating how much more calories you can consume without getting fat. The next one is going to be choosing exercises smartly. If your goal is purely muscle growth, then you have to do exercises that allow you to push closer to failure with as little fatigue as possible. Such exercises are mainly going to be machine based movements. I used to think deadlifts are the secret to growing a big, thicker, and wider back, but apparently that turned out to be as true as Liver King claiming natty. I used to think that doing exercise I enjoy is simply going to give me the results I want. Just because you enjoy doing deadlifts, just because you enjoy doing overhead presses, just because you enjoy doing barbell back squats, does not mean that these exercises are going to give you the results you want as fast as possible. I realized that doing these exercises gave me so much fatigue that it practically became impossible for me to progressively overload on them. And that was because every time I tried to progressively overload after a few weeks, I just felt sick. And by sick, I mean like literally sick, like bedridden sick. And that was because after weeks and months of training close to failure on these high fatigue based movements, my body used to always end up accumulating so much fatigue that it just couldn't recover from it. And because I didn't give my body enough time and enough scope for recovery, my body took that time off from the gym for me. It just shut down and it fell sick. What am I going to do in that case? So after basically failing in this cycle multiple times, what I realize is that I need to switch things up a bit. I need to stop doing exercises that give me a ton of fatigue and a moderate amount of stimulus, and replace these exercises with exercises that give me an equal, if not a better stimulus for a fraction of the fatigue. So for example, I ditched deadlifts and started doing Romanian deadlifts. I ditched barbell bench presses and started doing incline dumbbell presses or flat machine presses. I ditched doing overhead presses and I started doing lateral raising movements. If you notice one thing, I basically changed all the heavy free weight movements for more optimal single joint and smaller muscle based movements, because these are the movements that's actually going to target your muscle better. Like take deadlifts for example, it almost targets every single muscle in your body, but it doesn't target any of them optimally. So what's even the point of doing deadlifts as an exercise, man? As long as your goal is purely muscle building and hypertrophy and bodybuilding, you have absolutely no reason to include deadlifts in your training program. So choose exercises smartly. Choose exercises that give you the most amount of stimulus for the least amount of fatigue. Thirdly, I regulated my training intensity. For the longest time, I used to think that taking all my sets to failure was the way to go. And if I'm not taking all of my sets to failure, I'm leaving way too many gains on the table. And that was wrong as hell. I later realized that taking all of my sets to failure was just giving me so much unnecessary fatigue and so much trouble to track my progress efficiently that I was just a feather in the wind because everything was so random in my training program. I mean, taking all of your sets to failure basically has three major flaws. Firstly, increased risk of injury, of course, because if you try to take all of your sets to failure, the chances of you losing your stability and form breakdown increases drastically. Second, it gives you a ton of unnecessary fatigue, which you may later find it very difficult to recover from. And thirdly, it makes it super hard to track your progress accurately. Now, firstly, let me explain what the excess fatigue actually does to you. You need to understand that training to failure gives you exponentially more fatigue, but does not proportionally match the amount amount of hypertrophy. That basically means if you do a set to 2 reps in reserve, you'll probably get like 90% of the gains. But if you do 2 more reps and push to 0 RIR, you will get 95% of the results. But if you get X amount of fatigue by taking a set to 2 RIR, by doing just 2 more reps and pushing to 0 RIR will give you X to the power 3 or X to the power 4 amount of fatigue. That's a lot of fatigue for just 5% of additional hypertrophy. And in my opinion, that is not a good return at all. And when done across many sessions over weeks and months, this fatigue does really accumulate in your body and your chances of burnout increase drastically. And that's literally what happened with me. I used to fall sick on the bed. And next, and the major flaw of taking all your sets to failure is that it makes tracking progress significantly harder. That's because when you take a set to true all out failure, you will almost always do lesser reps in your succeeding sets. Or if you want to match the reps or stay within the 6 to 15 hypertrophic rep range, you're going to have to drop the weight. In this case, you're going to have to manage two variables. That's your reps and your weight. And it's much difficult to manage two variables at once as compared to just one. So instead of all of this mess, what I actually started doing was I started doing a total of 3 sets in which I try to match the reps in all of my sets such that my last set is always taken to all out failure. For example, I will do 15 reps in my first set and this is not failure. Then in my next 2 sets, I will try to do 15 reps again and choose a weight for all the 3 sets such that my last set is always taken to failure. So for example, if I think I'll be able to do 15 reps in my third set with 20 kgs, then in my first set itself, I'll take 25 kgs and do 15 reps with 25 kgs and then 15 reps with 25 kgs in my second set again. And then in my third set, I probably might get 14 or 15. I don't know. If I get 14, then I'll stick to 25 kgs itself. Then in the next week, I'll try to do 25 kgs for 15 reps in my third set. If I get 15 reps, then I'll probably bump the weight up to 30 kgs. That is how you progressively overload. Because in this case, your weight is staying the same. So out of two variables, that was your weight and your reps, your weight is the same. So you don't have to worry about your weight because it's not a variable anymore. The only variable, the only thing you need to count is your number of reps. And that is going to be matched in all 3 sets. So it's much more systematic and easier to track your progress this way. And lastly, I bumped up my protein intake. Believe it or not, but I think one of the biggest reasons why I was actually able to gain so much of lean mass was because I moved abroad for studies. I mean, as weird as it sounds, it is true. That is because as soon as I moved to Australia, my protein intake just bumped up like super high. It almost became twice as much I was having back in India. Because what I was doing back in India was that I was having anything my mom made plus about 100 or 150 grams of chicken and a scoop of whey every single day. And don't get me wrong, that did give me pretty good results. Like I did gain a significant amount of mass that time as well, mainly because I was having enough protein and enough calories. But when I came here for my higher studies in Australia, I didn't know anything to cook apart from chicken and rice. And so that was all I ate day and night for weeks and months. And this actually bumped up my protein intake like super high, like through the roof. I mean, some days while I was tracking my protein, I was having 2 grams of protein per pound of body weight. Mind it, it's 2 grams per pound. The general guidelines for muscle building and hypertrophy is 1 gram per pound. I was having twice the recommended range. And the amount of progress I noticed on the super high protein diet was just incredible. Like I have no words for it. I was literally thinking I was on gear or something. I was recovering so much faster. My strength in the gym went up significantly. I didn't even gain as much fat because all of this was happening in a calorie deficit. And that's because protein actually fills you up for very long time. So if you have a lot of protein, you're not going to feel hungry for a very long time. And that is exactly why it is so hard to overeat protein. So the bottom line is, in my opinion, you should have as much protein as you can. If you can afford it, just have it. And don't worry, it's not going to kill your kidneys or something. Also, if you want to learn how to lose fat effectively and stay lean forever, then I've actually made a complete fat loss guide on it. The link for that guide will be the first link in the description box below. It's a complete 11-step fat loss guide that teaches you every single thing you need to know about fat loss, how to calculate your calories, how to reduce calories in your deficit, how to measure your protein, how to track food correctly, and what type of foods you should eat. It is super detailed and super simple to understand, and it literally costs lesser than what you spend at McDonald's in a day. So if you're really willing to get in shape and lose fat and build more muscle, give that guide a shot. That was it for this video. Hope you found it helpful. Like, share, comment, subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.